John Lee, as we know, is set to be sworn in as Hong Kong's new chief executive today, and the president of Hong Kong's Legislative Council spoke to the media about how the city has developed since last year's changes to its electoral system.
Now
we have 90 capable members representing different sectors and professions. At the same time, they are all patriots. There's no place in the world where those in power are not patriots. We used to have chaos in Hong Kong. Some people colluded with foreign forces to break into the Legislative Council. The change has been obvious. Over the past year, there have been no disturbances by the opposition, and we have introduced 46 laws in 1 year, which is more than double the previous average. Under this patriotic rule of Hong Kong, I believe we'll be able to better cooperate with the government to solve our deep-seated issues step by step. We all have different opinions, and differing opinions can be discussed and dealt with in the council. In the past, there was something wrong, and that is, the Legislative Council often failed to cooperate with the administration, even with funding blocked. So at the time, it was very difficult. Now we can pass and discuss bills, discuss funding, and so on, which are regular legislative practices. It's not a rubber stamp council, as some people call it. Pass or fail, everything is discussed in great detail. The new Legislative Council has been in session for about 6 months. This government came to power after the improvements to the electoral system. 3 elections have taken place. Of course, we must do our best to show this to the public. The new system will definitely benefit the people. It will also benefit and improve Hong Kong's economic and political progress. In the past 25 years, the one country, two systems principle has been very successful as a whole. As the president said when he met the new chief executive, of course, we've had highs and lows over the past 25 years, and the last Legislative Council had even reached a point of no control. The central government has done 2 good things. The first is a national security law, and the second is the improvement of the electoral system. After these things were implemented, Hong Kong became the different place, the different world. It also gave the local government and lawmakers an opportunity to better serve the Hong Kong people. One country, two systems is an unprecedented concept, and it has been great across eras. Therefore, it must be good for Hong Kong. It must be good for China, our country. We must persevere and implement it well.
For more insight, let's cross live to Mr. Lawrence Ma in Hong Kong. He's the chairman of the Hong Kong Legal Exchange Foundation. So, Mr. Ma, President Xi Jinping said Hong Kong can only maintain its long-term stability and security by ensuring patriots administering Hong Kong. Tell us more about why this principle is so important to the city.
Well, because the Basic Law allows Hong Kong's legislature to be elected in the first place, and Western subversive power was trying to stack it with people who would listen to them and do what they ask. So you see the Legislative Council in the past were very obnoxiously obstructive towards the government, and the oppositions would veto almost whatever bills the government proposed. Now legally, the old Legislative Council had abused its power and derailed from its proper conduct of meaningful and sensible debate. Now, in 2020 came the Patriots governing Hong Kong policy promulgated by the Central People's Government, which was effectively cure this past problem. So all Legislative Council members now are patriots and professionally and properly discharging their duties.
Right, Lawrence, President of the Legislative Council, Andrew Leung, also said Hong Kong went through chaos. Quote, some people colluded with foreign forces to interfere with the Legislative Council. And now the LegCo has gone through obvious changes. What are the changes from your observations? Because it's roused some debates. So how do you see those changes?
Well, the implementation of Patriots governing Hong Kong policy requires a person who wishes to become a legislative councillor to go through a qualification check. The person has to fill in a form answering questions like whether he has any affiliation with foreign political parties, or whether that person holds the British National Overseas BNO passport, or whether he has previously received funding from foreign governments or organizations. So the person has to disclose also information about his spouse. So this check-in will be conducted by a qualified vetting committee chaired by senior government officials with the advice, very importantly, from the National Security Branch of the Hong Kong Police Force. So this is the changes that has to be implemented or have been implemented if you want to be a legislative councillor, so that the Patriots governing Hong Kong policy can be implemented and perform functionally.
Mr. Ma, Britain and some other Western countries have pointed fingers at Chinese central authorities' decision to change Hong Kong's electoral system, saying the decision undermines the one country, two systems and threatens Hong Kong's high autonomy. What's your response to those Western accusations?
Well, high degree of autonomy is not absolute autonomy. And those people wanting to use high degree of autonomy, which is guaranteed in the basic law, to seek Hong Kong's independence is definitely a no. This is not what high degree of autonomy is for. High degree of autonomy is for Hong Kong people to govern Hong Kong, and definitely not for Hong Kong people to claim independence from the People's Republic of China.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lawrence Ma in Hong Kong.
All right, now let's get back to our studio guests. First of all, Victor, the basic law of Hong Kong, SAR, stipulates one country, two systems will remain unchanged for 50 years until 2047, if my math is right. We are right halfway through that process, moving forward under this policy. But unchanged is a bit tricky word. Unchanged for 50 years, but right now, depending on everything that has happened, what do you think that needs to be changed and what needs to stay unchanged?
Well, first of all, Hong Kong still very much maintains its capitalist system. For example, in terms of the common law, which was left behind by the British, it is more or less unchanged. As a matter of fact, there are still British judges serving in high courts in Hong Kong. Very amazing. Lots of the people in mainland China, in China's mainland, do not fully understand why this remains the case. But this is part of what China commits for the one country, two system. British judges still serving in Hong Kong. Secondly, Hong Kong still maintains its Hong Kong dollar, which is pegged with the US dollar rather than renminbi. And the Hong Kong dollar is fully convertible, is very much active in not only Hong Kong but this part of the world. And further, the Hong Kong residents carry Hong Kong SAR passports, which enjoy a visa exemption by more than 150 countries. So people in Hong Kong do have much greater freedom and flexibility of traveling to lots of countries and regions in the world. And this also enabled people in Hong Kong, residents in Hong Kong, to engage with the rest of the world and also helping China's interior part to connect with the rest of the world much better. Now, all these things do not need to be changed and do not have to be changed. Why? Because it serves the people in Hong Kong well, and it serves China's interest overall also very well. What needs to be changed is, for example, when the British left in 1997, it was not true that Britain did not have national security operations in Hong Kong. It was a national security operation serving the national interest of the United Kingdom rather than of China. When they left, there was a vacuum which need to be filled, and the basic law already contained a provision that the national security law need to be enacted in a timely manner. It was not enacted by opposition, as just now the other panelists mentioned, by the Electoral members, for example. And all this needs to be changed because we need to have a national security law framework which now serves the national security interest of China rather than previously, prior to 1997, serving the national interest of Hong Kong. Another thing is that Hong Kong should not be interfered by foreign countries. No foreign country should act as if they are still overlording Hong Kong or they have legitimate right to intervene in the internal matters of Hong Kong. The rule of law and democracy in Hong Kong are deeply rooted, but they need to be operated under this overall premise, one country, two systems. So I think this will make Hong Kong very robust and dynamic all the way up to 2047 and hopefully beyond.
And Professor Liu, one country, two systems is a comprehensive institutional design, and we've spent quite a lot of time talking about the political aspect of it, but now let's focus on the economy. So in the past 25 years, how has this very institutional design been translated into the dynamics of Hong Kong's economic development?
Number one, Hong Kong is still an independent member of many global communities like WTO, and also that the Chinese mainland has the CEPA, the Comprehensive Economic Partnership with Hong Kong. You never heard of, Chinese central government sign some sort of equal treaty with a province within mainland. So therefore,
even
there's
preferential to some extent.
That's right. It's also, the Hong Kong's investment in China is still considered to be statistically foreign investment. So they also enjoy the tax exemptions, etc. So, which means that the mainland fully respects its commitment to the basic law, and also it's there to be committed to what has been promised. And so, therefore, over many of these issues, there's not really much has been changed, and also that there has been increasing synergy in this entire process. For example, with the Asian financial crisis, with the global financial crisis, and with the SARS, and now with the COVID, the mainland is a strong cushion for Hong Kong to fall back on, and China as mainland has made a substantial contribution and even subsidies to Hong Kong. And now, when Hong Kong used to be the front shop for the Chinese manufacturer, now they are also evolving together with Chinese high quality development, where they continue to serve as the hubs, as a financial center, as a shipping center, and as a trade center, etc. So with now the further integration of the Greater Bay Area, so both sides really do see a great promise. And more importantly, I think the Chinese mainland can also learn a lot more from good governance of Hong Kong. You see that there are far less corrupted officials in Hong Kong. So they really command global respect, and also the ease of doing business, the simplification of procedures in engaging contract, etc. So there's a lot that both sides can really harness together for the, as President Xi said, the rejuvenation of the Chinese great nation.
Well, gentlemen, we'll be getting back to you on this very soon. Now, let's cross live to our reporter in Hong Kong, Huang Fei. We know Hong Kong has maintained its status as a leading financial center, standing third place globally. And China's 14th five-year plan highlights targets to build Hong Kong into an international hub in sectors such as trade, finance, and aviation. So, Huang Fei, tell us more about the grand design for the city. Hello, Huang Fei. Tell us more about Hong Kong's grand design for the future, especially under China's 14th five-year plan. Well, it looks like we have to go back to our reporter later in the program due to some technical difficulties at the moment. But let's get more insight from our guest, Professor Liu. Earlier you said for Hong Kong's economy, this right now could be a transitional period because it has already been a strong financial hub, trading hub, known for decades in the world. But now it looks like the focus is also being equally distributed to science and innovation. Tell us a little bit more about Hong Kong's potential in those regards.
Well, honestly, for a number of years, Hong Kong was really lost in the global innovation drive, and they did not really find the right strategic position, and also because of the deterrence of the Legislative Council. Actually, the executives couldn't do really much over a strategic transition. They used to position as the hub for Chinese traditional medicine, but then they found that, well, they do not have that much of the blessings and endowments. So now I think where is the guidance of the Chinese central government, and now with the renewed vitality of the new governors, there should be said that there are 8 type of positions that are positioned within the Chinese national 5-year plan for Hong Kong to play. And now when the directions is cleared and strategic positions are really magnified to the point that they are there to gather more of the resources simply to move forward. So we do see that Hong Kong's further integration, number one is that to benefit the local residents, they need good housing programs. And the British colonial rule didn't really care that much because they only care about the Victoria area. They didn't care about the new territory.
Yeah, indeed, we'll expand on those later in the program.
Right.
But now let's focus on innovation and
so
scientific
for the
progress,
innovation,
maybe.
yes, there's a vast room to work with the mainland. I've been providing a number of training programs for the younger generation on innovation, on entrepreneurship, particularly when those who intend or who already get parked in the special economic zone that was carved out. And right now, in terms of the biotechnology, in terms of the information technology, they actually have been working seamlessly with Shenzhen, who is the powerful hub in the world for this new round of we normally call it the fourth revolution in terms of industry. So therefore, we do see that where's the application of biotechnology, with information technology, adding on to the special unique advantage of Hong Kong in finance, in shipping, in logistics, and also in the great talent pool that has already been built. So we do see there's far more promise that's lying ahead.
Victor, you've been traveling from between Hong Kong and the mainland for years, I know. What's your personal observation in terms of Hong Kong's development on the economic front? From a financial hub, of course, it is still a financial hub, but now it has another identity as well, a technological hub. What's your own observation on that?
Thank you for mentioning this. I also hold a Hong Kong permanent residence card, so I travel to Hong Kong. I have the right to be elected and to elect in Hong Kong. So I really care a lot about the development in Hong Kong. I would say ever since China or China's mainland started economic reform and opening to the outside world in 1978, Hong Kong has been very, very active and played a very important role in terms of financing, access to technologies, and later transferring lots of manufacturing capacities from Hong Kong to China's mainland. It was truly a very, very great enabler for the economic development in China's mainland. Then I think Hong Kong choose to focus on several things. One is finance, very important. It's an international financial hub. Then property, especially premium property, high-level properties. And then infrastructure hub as well as logistics hub. Now, in terms of the manufacturing capacities, almost nothing has been left in Hong Kong, which is actually unfortunate. Now I think Hong Kong need to focus, as Professor Liu mentioned, on several things: biology, pharmaceutical, and also high tech. And it should be really a R&D center, not only for Hong Kong, which is relatively
And
small.
all those actually need integration with other areas, like
Absolutely.
the cities involved in the Greater Bay Area.
Absolutely.
For instance, if you study astronomy in Hong Kong University, but you can't do that job, maybe you would become a financier or something else in Hong Kong, but you can have a wider space to develop your own skill in the mainland.
Absolutely. The high level of integration applies to Hong Kong and the rest of the Greater Bay Area, as well as China in general, but also to the rest of the world. Why? Because Hong Kong continues to enjoy a lot of extraordinary advantages that the rest of China does not have up to today. And Hong Kong can continue to play this role of bridge or connectivity, for example, for the rest of China as well as the rest of the whole world. Now, in this way, focusing on R&D with particularly very carefully chosen areas of focus will be very important for Hong Kong. And this is especially important because Hong Kong's next door neighbor, Shenzhen, is fast becoming an international high-tech center in terms of the 5G, 6G, deep space, deep sea, for example. And Hong Kong really needs to wake up and hurry up and catch up, because otherwise it will be enjoying lower economic growth in the Greater Bay Area. And then it may even enjoy lower economic growth compared with all the other major cities in China's mainland, and this will not be very promising for Hong Kong. So Hong Kong needs to reorient itself and reposition itself and focusing on high technology, R&D, and integration with the rest of Greater Bay Area and rest of China, as well as rest of the world, including the rest of the Western world.
So it's indeed a high time for the city to expand its economic scope. And for more on the city, let's cross live to our reporter Huang Fei in Hong Kong. In a few moments, the ceremony marking the 25th anniversary of Hong Kong's return to China and the inauguration of the Special Administrative Region's 6th term government will start. So Huang Fei, give a sense of the atmosphere in the city right now.
Yes, well, I think you can still see, rolling messages behind me on top of the buildings just over the Victoria Harbour, welcoming President Xi Jinping and congratulating the 25th anniversary of Hong Kong's return to China. As I said earlier this morning, we saw helicopters flying by across this iconic stretch of water, showing the national flag and the Hong Kong SAR flag. And yesterday, we were filming downstairs, and there was a blanket display of national flags. The entire area was literally glowing in patriotic red. And as you said, in just a few minutes, we are expecting to see President Xi Jinping attend a ceremony to mark Hong Kong's return to the mainland, to the Chinese mainland, and he will also swear in the 6th term SAR government led by John Lee. And Lee has previously said that he wants to unite Hong Kong to start a new chapter, one that will guide the city from stability to prosperity. And he has also expressed gratitude to the central government. President Xi Jinping will no doubt in this visit will have many valuable guidance to the new administration. 5 years ago, President Xi Jinping made that famous tree metaphor in Carrie Lam's inauguration. He said, "One country is like the roots of a tree, and for a tree to grow tall and luxuriant, the roots must run deep and strong." President Xi's tree metaphor has been quoted many times by Carrie Lam and many senior officials in Hong Kong. And today, we're all ears on President Xi as he delivers important messages for the future leadership of Hong Kong. And sovereignty, national resilience, and economic integration are surely going to be reoccurring themes of Hong Kong's future. But we'll listen in soon and see what new and important messages will come out of today. Thanks, Pandang.
Thank you very much, our reporter Huang Fei in Hong Kong. So now let's take a look back at Hong Kong's recent election. The region held its 7th Legislative Council and 6th Chief Executive elections on May the 8th, the first since the changes to the electoral system in the city in 2021. Some 1,400 members of the region's election committee voted. 64-year-old Zhong Li won the election. He's a former chief secretary for the region and was the only candidate to secure enough nominations from the election committee in April this year. And this committee is a broadly representative body made up of members from 5 major sectors, from finance to grassroots and labor. Following the election, the central government appointed Zhong Li as the chief executive designate on May the 20th.
Right, and the State Council has approved the appointments of principal officials of Hong Kong's 6th-term government. 26 officials were nominated by the incoming Chief Executive Zhong Li, who thanked the central government for supporting his administration. And Chan Kok-ki will be the Chief Secretary for Administration, and Paul Chan will serve as Financial Secretary. Paul Lam Ting Kok will be Secretary for Justice, and Tang Ping Kong will be Secretary for Security. All right, let's get back to our studio guest, Victor. So, new administration in Hong Kong.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. What's your expectation?
Well, first of all, I think they have a lot to do. Mainly because really peace and stability and confidence in Hong Kong need to be restored and reinforced for the people in Hong Kong, because I think they have been disoriented over the past several years. Now the overhang is cleared away and people can really recommit themselves and rededicate themselves to peace and development and growth. And this is very importantly related to what the new SAR administration need to do. And they also really need to strive forward by a big mile in terms of closer integration with the rest of the Greater Bay Area, rest of China, and also very equally importantly with the rest of the world, mainly because Hong Kong really need to set themselves free from all these sanctions and restrictions imposed by Western countries. And I think Hong Kong, its SAR government and professionals and people of all walks of life in Hong Kong need to really tell the rest of the world the real story about Hong Kong, what's really going on in Hong Kong, the realities in Hong Kong. Allow me to mention one small thing. In Hong Kong, 25 years after the return of Hong Kong to China, no changes have been made in terms of the street names. For example, Queen's Road is still Queen's Road, King's Road is still King's Road, Victoria Harbour is still Victoria Harbour, Victoria Peak is still Victoria Peak. There is no change of these British left names. Now, this is in sharp contrast with what happened in India after it gained independence. Overnight, all the British left names were changed into local Indian names. So I think this is a
They just couldn't wait.
small but important illustration to see that China does not want to change everything in Hong Kong. We do not need to. Whatever works for Hong Kong can be kept and can continue for the benefit and convenience of the people in Hong Kong, people everywhere in China and throughout the world. But what needs to be changed, I think now, under the new administration, is a renewed spirit of innovation, creativity, entrepreneurship, and a renewed recognition and full acknowledgement that Hong Kong is part of China. And Hong Kong will be proud to be part of China, a central place with the rest of the Greater Bay Area, and a firm confidence that tomorrow in Hong Kong will be better than today and definitely better than yesterday's in Hong Kong.
And since we were talking about the tomorrow of Hong Kong, Professor Liu, how about opportunities, and especially opportunities for the younger generation? Earlier you mentioned you've been running this training program and you've encountered students from Hong Kong. So what would you say to them on their opportunities in the context of the Greater Bay Area and on a larger picture, China's 14th five-year plan, and even the whole nation's future?
Well, I still remember 30 years ago I represented a UK company called London Export company. I was working with China, and we use Hong Kong more as a distributor and also as the springboard, because they were able to play information asymmetry between China and the rest of the world, but no longer so because the world is getting more transparent and Chinese mainland is getting more open. And therefore, for business people, entrepreneurs, they also need to change with time. For the younger generations you mentioned, number one is that do they really have a global vision at the moment? And then do they have the strong patriotism that is there? Because if you really want to leverage with the mainland resources, actually many of the trainees I have received that they ask, what are the regulations in the mainland and what are the special benefits that they can be entitled to if they set up a company in China or make investment. And then the right type of capacity they have to build. And now I do see that both within Beijing area I teach and also in Hong Kong I also offer some lectures. We do see a commingling of mainland students with Hong Kong students. And at the very beginning, 20 years ago, people tend to, group themselves into different corners, but now they are highly mingled. And now over the workshop I have been looking after, they really are there to synergize their skills, their vision, their capacity, and they identify so many more. And plus that the Chinese type of cultural sentiment that is still very warm, instead of like strangers doing business simply on a piece of paper. So this is something that I do see that very impressive, and I can also see that for example specific opportunities like Hainan Island will be open as a free port, which will be the largest one in the world.
Free trade port.
Free trade.
The whole island is
free
trade port.
Free trade port. So the youngsters, they have the skills of doing high-end service together with the information. They can play very well in the global information platform. So I think for that end, actually the education in China, within mainland China is nowhere at the moment, I should say, compete with how the high-end service management can be. So therefore, the Hong Kong students, and by also mingling with the mainland students, they can really be future managers and leaders within this one, not to mention the bigger integration of the Greater Bay Area that can really offer huge potential for them.
Right, and actually programs like yours have witnessed, especially your personal experience, have witnessed enhanced mutual understanding. That's very important of young people from both sides. And young people always play a very important role in high-tech development, in innovation sector. They're very active in that sector. Well, Victor, you just said the new administration actually needs, and they are going to focus more on innovation on the high-tech sector. And you also said that Hong Kong need to wake up, to hurry up, to catch up. But I think Hong Kong as a financial hub, as a city full of young people, it has its own advantages in terms of high-tech development.
Absolutely.
Not only need to hurry up to catch up, they have their own advantages.
Absolutely. I think for the younger generation in Hong Kong, if we look at their advantages and benefits, let me be very quick in going through the short list in my mind. First of all,
is it long?
No. First of all, Chinese plus English, common law system, and then deeply rooted tradition of being an intermediary with the rest of China versus the rest of the world. Now, they also suffer some disadvantages. First of all, housing is exorbitantly high priced. And this is a leftover problem by the British rulers in Hong Kong before 1997 because they didn't care to develop, as Professor Liu mentioned, the new territory or others. They focused on the island of Hong Kong and a little bit of Kowloon, for example. And I think the land management system as practiced by the British before 1997 was outdated. It needs to be reformed. And I think Hong Kong needs to really do their utmost to provide housing at a reasonable priced basis so that the younger generation can expect that they can work for several years or a couple of decades.
They have a sense of belonging.
Absolutely, they belong here, they can make their own fortune, they can have minimum and decent living to start with, because otherwise it's inhumane. And it really deprived the basic rights of the people of living in Hong Kong. This, I think, remains the top priority for the new administration in Hong Kong. And how Hong Kong can do this, together with the participation from China's mainland, as well as from everywhere else in the world, whichever company who is interested in promoting better affordable housing in Hong Kong should be welcomed, rather than closing the door to foreign investments or investments from China's mainland, etc.
What about Hong Kong's advantages in the regard of technology development? Do you think the city is vibrant enough in terms of that?
It needs to be more vibrant. Why? Because Hong Kong was not used as an innovation center by the British before 1997. And I think the education in Hong Kong was really focused on training very obedient civil servants so that you are aware of the laws created by the British. You were law-abiding citizens, for example. It's not really focused on breaking out of the window, thinking out of the box, and creating all the innovations and creativity projects, for example. In this sense, I think the universities in Hong Kong really need to reposition themselves and think about the whole world as a unit, think about China versus the rest of the world, and what are the advanced stages of development in all categories, and how they can cooperate fully with the universities in China, including Professor Liu's university, for example, as well as universities throughout the world, including in the United States, Britain, and all the developed countries. I think Hong Kong's future is not a closed future. Hong Kong's future is a more open future, more connectivity with everyone else in the world, including China's mainland on the one hand, but equally importantly, with the rest of the world. This will be the future and the hope for Hong Kong.
Professor Liu, what about Hong Kong's traditionally strong capital market, especially it's known for the world for capital flow, the ease of it. Professor Gao has mentioned prospects for the city to provide more diversity into its economy, especially in innovation and high-tech sectors, etc. So what role can the local capital can play in this regard?
Innovation is capital guzzler, so you need a lot of money.
But the key question
really.
is, do you think that local capital is interested enough in science-tech
because
Exactly.
it's relatively
it takes
new
money,
and needs
and
time.
if you talk about basic research, it's basically money burning.
That's right. So you have the advantage to access to huge amount of capital in Hong Kong, but the issue is that are you ready? To be trusted by those venture capitalists that you are going to produce the windfall type of profit they would expect. So therefore, given the limited space in Hong Kong, and also the given, as Victor mentioned, the traditional legacy in terms of education, they just wanted to train, good professionals and obedient citizens. They didn't really, the Britishers didn't care about a innovative drive in Hong Kong. So that's absolutely true. So now, with the catch-up of mainland, that's quite a spur behind the Hong Kong, because they used to really have a sense of superiority because they had higher income and they could really play a bridge between mainland and the rest of the world in terms of trade and finance. So why should there be innovation? But now with Shenzhen now as a great urge, so that that's something that they have to change, because this is really a positive some type of competition. And now seeing that there has been changes, as also Victor said, they have to catch up. And now with vast opportunities in mainland, with synergies that are there, and also with the unique advantages of the type of legal system, the ease of doing business. So there should be further innovation. Plus, and this type of innovation in today's era, it does not require a big, vast space, to do that. So as long as they have the capital, they have the also the human resources, they have the drive, they have also the competitive urge behind them, and they should be able to do pretty well.
And it should not be only coming from Hong Kong's financial sector, but also from the mainland, from Greater Bay Area, from the mainland in general, and from and to attract investment globally. But how difficult is that? I mean, as you said, it is not an easy job.
Well, you need to really to have a reconsideration and re-engineer of the entire process. For example, for basic science, and that's really the foundation. And so I think in that end, the Hong Kong universities, they pay professors pretty well. So therefore, there should be a strong motivation. So Victor, why don't you seek a position over there instead of doing it in Suzhou?
You never know.
And yeah, there is a strong incentive for scientists and for professors to build a strong, science, the fundamental science, and how they can really be commercialized their inventions, their results. So that needs calibration. And then the younger generation entrepreneurs, they need to pick up, because you see that the previous tycoons in Hong Kong, they either handle real estate or dealing with finance and dealing with shipping, but now they do need more unicorns, inventing small gadgets that can have bigger value.
Right.
Yeah.
The unicorns, have you seen any, because you've conducted a lot of exchanging programs specifically with the Hong Kong young people, and Victor has been witnessing the whole development. But as for the format of new companies such as the unicorns, how much space, or how can you give us a specific example, for instance, what kind of unicorns are springing up in Hong Kong?
Well,
are they attempting enough to draw any investment, especially from a global market?
Well, you see that there are a number of the new startup companies with huge promise, because one is that actually they have been selling the Chinese mainland opportunities more than Hong Kong opportunities. So far, I see some of the young generation are doing. And then, now they know that idea matters, as our program says. They have great, some of them have great ideas, and also they gain a lot more inspiration. And by working actually more in connectivity, particularly with Shenzhen, actually. I've been also not only a trainer, but also a judge for social entrepreneurship, between China mainland and China Hong Kong, and so those youngsters, they were doing arts, they were doing the entrepreneurship simply for social profit, not really for their own profit, and so now, I think with more influx of the capital into Hong Kong, we can see that more of the Chinese companies who are listed on NASDAQ or NYSE are now flocking more also into Hong Kong. And now to your question, that because the domination of so many tycoons which really develop on traditional business like real estate or shipping or finance, and now with the new space over there, with the old generations that are really, succeeding. So the younger generation can really come up, particularly in the incubation center and also in the new development zone that's really there to
So
set up.
you have the confidence on that.
Yeah,
you are
I should
very
say that.
optimistic.
Right.
Gentlemen, well, we've been talking about new opportunities for Hong Kong. Let's also remember that one of the key strategic positionings of Hong Kong is a financial hub, a global financial hub. So, Professor Gao, you've been working in this sector for quite several decades. So, looking at now the changing situation on China's capital market and the global market as a whole, what would you say are the biggest challenges for the city's financial sector, and how should the city deal with them?
Well, in order to really develop Hong Kong into a more successful international financial hub, you need several things, and Hong Kong already has some of these. For example, one is transparency.
Sorry to interrupt, Professor. As we're talking about this, we're already watching live footage from Hong Kong. This is live footage from Victoria Bay, I guess. The architecture in the middle is the Hong Kong Exhibition Center, where the
President
ceremony
Xi Jinping is entering the site of the ceremony.
The Honorable John Lee Ka-chiu, Chief
Chinese
Executive
President
of the Hong
Xi
Kong Special
Jinping
Administrative Region, will accompany
been
President Xi
attending
into
the
the hall.
celebrations
Please rise.
marking the 25th anniversary of Hong Kong's return to China, and this is also will be the inaugural ceremony of the 6th term government of the Special Administrative Region. You're watching live footage from Hong Kong. Chinese President Xi Jinping has entered the venue. Chinese President Xi Jinping is attending the celebration for the 25th anniversary of Hong Kong's return to China, and accompanying him is Mr. Zhong Li, the upcoming 6th Chief Executive of Hong Kong.
And he is going to officially take office as Hong Kong's new chief executive.
You're watching live footage from Hong Kong.
The celebrations of the 25th anniversary of Hong Kong's return to the motherland and inauguration of the 6th term government of the Hong Kong Special Administrative Region commences now. Please rise for the national anthem. Please be seated. I now invite the Honorable John Lee Ka-chiu, the 6th Chief Executive of the Hong Kong Special Administrative Region, to take his oath. I invite His Excellency Xi Jinping, President of the People's Republic of China, to administer the oath. I, John Lee Ka-chiu, swear that In the office of Chief Executive of the Hong Kong Special Administrative Region of the People's Republic of China, I will uphold the basic law of the Hong Kong Special Administrative Region of the People's Republic of China, bear allegiance to the Hong Kong Special Administrative Region of the People's Republic of China, and serve the Hong Kong Special Administrative Region conscientiously, dutifully, in full accordance with the law, honestly and with integrity, and be held accountable to the Central People's Government of the People's Republic of China and the Hong Kong Special Administrative Region. Now, I invite Chief Executive John Lee to lead the principal officials of the Hong Kong Special Administrative Region to the stage and take their oath. I invite His Excellency Xi Jinping, President of the People's Republic of China, to administer the oath. I swear that in the office of Chief Secretary for Administration of the Government of the Hong Kong's Special Administrative Region of the People's Republic of China, I will uphold the basic law of the Hong Kong Special Administrative Region of the People's Republic of China, bear allegiance to the Hong Kong Special Administrative Region of the People's Republic of China, and serve the Hong Kong Special Administrative Region conscientiously, dutifully, in full accordance with the law, honestly, and with integrity. Person making the oath, Chen Kwok-ki.
You're watching live footage from Hong Kong. This is the inaugural ceremony of the 6th Chief Executive of Hong Kong and also officials of the 6th term Hong Kong Regional Government. John Lee has been sworn in as Hong Kong's 6th Chief Executive. And also 26 officials are sworn in as members of the 6th Regional Government. Chinese President Xi Jinping has been administering the sworn-in ceremony. And in 2021, China's top legislature, the National People's Congress, or NPC, adopted a decision on improving the electoral system of the Hong Kong Special Administrative Region. The NPC session declared that the electoral system should conform to the principle of one country, two systems, meet the realities of the region and ensure that the region is administered by people who love China and love Hong Kong. Under this new electoral system, Hong Kong has established an election committee which is broadly representative of the society's interest and is suited to the region's realities. The election committee shall be responsible for electing the chief executive and certain members of the legislative council. The election committee is composed of 1,500 members from 5 sectors, namely industry, commerce and finance, professionals, grassroots, labor, religious and other sectors. And now you're watching live footage from Hong Kong. This is the inaugural ceremony of the 6th Chief Executive of Hong Kong Special Administrative Region and officials of the 6th
Right, and let's get to know John Lee and other officials in the new SAR government. John Lee was elected as the 6th-term Chief Executive Designate of Hong Kong SAR in May. And during his over 30-year career in Hong Kong Police Force, Lee held various posts, including Chief Superintendent, Assistant Commissioner, Senior Assistant Commissioner, and Deputy Commissioner of Police. And in September 2012, Lee was appointed as Under Secretary for Security of the Hong Kong SAR government, including his career in the Hong Kong Police Force. And he was appointed by the State Council as Secretary for Security of the Hong Kong SAR government in July in 2017 and Chief Secretary for Administration in June 2021. Well, in dealing with major events in recent years, including the implementation of the national security law in Hong Kong, of course, the fight against COVID-19 and the changes to the region's electoral system, John Lee has taken a firm stand and fulfilled his responsibilities.
And 26 other officials has also been sworn in, and they were earlier nominated by John Lee. And their sworn-in ceremony was also administered by Chinese President Xi Jinping, and this is happening right now. Right. For example, Chan Kok-ki is the Chief Secretary for Administration, and Paul Chan is serving as a Financial Secretary. Paul Lam Teng Kok is Secretary for Justice, and Tang Ping Kwan is the Secretary for Security. Also, Chief Secretary for Administration is Chan Kok-ki.
And in various occasions, the new officials of the new SAR Hong Kong government actually expressed their feelings and their comments on the one country, two systems, and also the current situation of Hong Kong. For instance, Financial Secretary Paul Chan said that although the external environment facing Hong Kong in the next few years will still remain complex and daunting, he is quite confident that with the firm support of the central government and strong leadership of the incoming chief executive, the new term government will do its best to push forward the socio-economic development of Hong Kong, opening a new chapter of stability and prosperity with the spirit of innovation, perseverance, and unparalleled fighting spirit. Quite clear remark indeed. And earlier, Secretary for Justice Paul Lam said that the rule of law is essential for Hong Kong to enhance its status as an international financial, shipping, and also trade center, and establish the city as a center for international legal
yes, for international legal and dispute resolution services in the Asia Pacific. Now, Hong Kong's GDP reached over 2.8 trillion Hong Kong dollars last year.
Thank you, President Xi. Thank you, Mr. Lee.
I now invite members of the Executive Council of the Hong Kong Special Administrative Region to take their oath. I invite the Honorable John Lee, Chief Executive of the Hong Kong Special Administrative Region, to administer the oath. I swear that being appointed to the Executive Council of the Hong Kong Special Administrative Region of the People's Republic of China, I will uphold the basic law of the Hong Kong Special Administrative Region of the People's Republic of China, bear allegiance to the Hong Kong Special Administrative Region of the People's Republic of China, and serve the Hong Kong Special Administrative Region conscientiously, dutifully, and in full accordance with the law, honestly, and with integrity. Person making the oath, Chen Kwok-ki.
You're watching live footage from Hong Kong. Members of Hong Kong's Executive Council have just taken their oath. So the Executive Council assists the Chief Executive in policy making. The Chief Executive presides over the weekly meetings of the Executive Council, except for the appointment, removal and disciplining of officials and the adoption of measures in emergencies. The Chief Executive consults this Council on important policy decisions ranging from the introduction of bills to the Legislative Council to the Legco's dissolution. Now, for more insight, let's talk to our guests in the studio. So, Professor Gao, the 6th Chief Executive of Hong Kong, along with the 6th term Hong Kong government and also the Executive Council have all been sworn in. What are expectations on their future work? And let's talk about that from Chief Executive John Lee's platform.
Well, I would say this is the first time that the new administration in Hong Kong is sworn in, and every member of the new administration has vetted and has been qualified as patriots. Now, this is important, but also very straightforward. I would say in no country or no administration anywhere in the world where a leading officer would not be a patriot, because that would be anti-logic, is that right? But then for Hong Kong, this was assumed, but it was not very well made explicit. But this time, everything has changed. Everyone has been vetted. Everyone has proven and been proven that they are patriots. Now, this really is a very solid foundation for this administration to do their job well, in good faith, serving China as its sovereign, as well as the Hong Kong SAR government, serving both the residents in Hong Kong as well as the Chinese people as a whole. Now, this is truly a breakthrough period for Hong Kong, and I think everyone in Hong Kong, including in this administration, will be very clear about who they are, what they are up to, and what they need to do to serve the people in Hong Kong, and also to be loyal to China, its ultimate sovereign. This will be the great expectation. Hong Kong will no longer be a place where loss of orientation, for example, agitations of all kinds, including push for so-called Hong Kong independence, will be tolerated. No, it will not be tolerated. But full expression of wills and innovation, creativity will be not only tolerated, but it will be encouraged. And I think Hong Kong is on its road to greater excellence and shining successes in the coming 25 years.
What's your take on this, Professor Liu?
Well, Before I answer your question, I owe Dong a great example of Hong Kong's entrepreneurship, which is the unicorn. The Time Sense is one that they were set up in 2014, and they turned out to be a great innovator in the artificial intelligence and taking advantage of the joint research result from Hong Kong University, Peking University, and Tsinghua University. And there are also a number of young graduates from these universities that are there to set up such a one that is growing, very expeditiously across many industries, like city zoning and in monitoring weather and in guiding the driverless vehicles, etc. So this is a huge promise, which is a good example, for the younger generation to get updated and together working between the Hong Kong and mainland for another slew of unicorns.
Right.
And now, as for the Hong Kong's management issue, I think now, of course, it used to be a sort of ambiguity in the governors and also the legislators whom they are served. And some of them really thought that Hong Kong, after the British colonial rule was cut out, they turned out to be an enclave. So this is not right, because there's clearly a sovereign behind it, and therefore you have to be patriotic, and then you have to see a larger picture, even for the benefit of the Hong Kong people, by further integrating and by declaring good faith and allegiance to the mainland, and they can really benefit a great deal more. And then how do they position to the rest of the world? So with the strong support of the mainland, they can get the more of the bargaining chips in terms of the benefits they can deal not only on the administrative level but also on the business level. And now with the I think they attach great importance to the Shanghai-Hong Kong Connect in terms of the finance, and then that can really give them further fuel to boost the Hong Kong and London Connect, and then they can be further entrenched as the hubs of many of those great businesses.
Right, and while those officials, including Zhong Li, including other major officials, were taking oaths on the stage today, I think they are also facing a very big pressure because the previous SAR government has done a great job in terms of raising Hong Kong's GDP. The GDP reached 2.8 trillion Hong Kong dollars in last year in 2021, up from 1.3 billion only in 1997. That's quite a big leap indeed. And among others, because over the past 24 years, city GDP grew at an average annual rate of 2.7%. So, what among all those pressures, Victor, what do you think is the biggest challenge?
There are several things which come to my mind. First of all, the local government in Hong Kong under the British rule was very much of a laissez-faire government. It really left most of the economic development things to the business communities. Now, Hong Kong need to make
Professor, we have to
readjustment.
stop you from
Yes,
there.
please.
To see what Zhong Li is going to say.
I now
really.
invite the Honorable John Lee, Chief Executive of the Hong Kong Special Administrative Region, to deliver his address. Honorable President Xi, distinguished guests, fellow citizens, today, with a humble heart, I have been sworn in by the President of the People's Republic of China as the sixth-term Chief Executive of the Hong Kong Special Administrative Region, Hong Kong SAR. I would like to extend my sincere gratitude to the Central People's Government and the people of Hong Kong for their trust they place in me. I will lead my governing team to strive to build a more caring and inclusive Hong Kong full of vibrancy, hope, and development opportunities. 25 years ago, at the stroke of midnight on the 1st of July, the national anthem of the People's Republic of China was played, and the national flag and the Hong Kong SAR regional flag were raised gradually at the Hong Kong Convention and Exhibition Center where we are right now. It is at that solemn moment that the Hong Kong SAR was officially established, and the great and innovative principle of one country, two systems was formally implemented. The principle of one country, two systems is the institutional safeguard of Hong Kong and the cornerstone of maintaining Hong Kong's long-term prosperity and stability. It is also a successful national policy that allows Hong Kong to maintain its unique strengths. Over the past 2.5 decades, Hong Kong has made impressive achievements on multiple fronts. It has been recognized as the world's freest economy, the world's #3 global financial center, and the 5th most competitive economy around the globe. Hong Kong is also the world's largest offshore renminbi hub and the world's #1 in terms of air cargo throughput. In addition, 5 of the universities in Hong Kong are in the world top 100. The list goes on. Hong Kong has, of course, also encountered various challenges, including the global financial crisis, the unlawful Occupy movement in 2014, the Mong Kok riots in 2016, the riots and violence in 2019, together with the interference of Hong Kong's affairs by external forces which threatened our national security, and the COVID-19 pandemic. Thanks to the full support of the central authorities, the vitality and strength of the one country, two systems principle, as well as Hong Kong citizens' diligence and determination to seek improvements, Hong Kong succeeded in overcoming each and every challenge and moving forward to scale new heights. This fully demonstrates 2 major strengths of Hong Kong. The first one comprises Hong Kong's unique advantages over one country, two systems as a special administrative region, making it possible for Hong Kong to fully integrate into our country's national development, to thrive as a metropolitan city with high international connectivity, and to serve as the most effective gateway between the world and our country. The second is the combination of our own advantages, resilience and strong will of our people, and the concerted efforts of all sectors of the community. It is the greatest honor for me today to shoulder this historic mission given to me by the central authorities and the people of Hong Kong. I know well the great responsibility that comes with it. I will strive to comprehensively and accurately implement the principles of one country, two systems, Hong Kong people administering Hong Kong, and a high degree of autonomy to safeguard the constitutional order of the Hong Kong SAR as defined under the Constitution and the Basic Law, to safeguard our country's sovereignty, national security and development interests, and to ensure the long-term prosperity and stability of Hong Kong. The rule of law is the cornerstone and core value of Hong Kong's success. Since our return to the motherland, the Basic Law has protected the rights and freedoms of Hong Kong residents, as well as the independent judiciary and final adjudication. Hong Kong has been ranked as the world's number 19 in the rule of law, followed by many countries in Europe and America. Being a highly market-oriented and international economy underpinned by the rule of law, Hong Kong is exactly what it takes to be a successful international city. With the enactment and implementation of the Hong Kong National Security Law, Hong Kong has made it to restore order from chaos. The improvement of the electoral system has enabled the implementation of the principle of Patriots administering Hong Kong. The improved electoral system upholds the principle of one country, two systems, accords with the actual situation of Hong Kong, and caters for the needs of Hong Kong's development. It is therefore imperative that we should cherish and uphold the system for a long time to come, and we should make good use of it to effect sound governance. The next 5 years will be a crucial time for Hong Kong to advance from governance to prosperity. The Hong Kong self-government will press ahead to overcome challenges with a pragmatic and can-do attitude and adopt a result-oriented approach to solve social problems. The governing team will value teamwork and the need to support and complement one another. We are bold to change, willing to embrace challenges and seek innovation in order to enhance the efficiency of governance and tackle problems for the people. Leading officials of the government will proactively intervene to solve problems and make directions to nip problems in the bud. We'll be mindful of the public's expectations in policy making, even if we may only solve one problem a day. Without making such small steps, it is simply impossible to get to faraway places. Through perseverance, we shall succeed. The Hong Kong self-government will enhance Hong Kong's competitiveness and develop the economy. Apart from strengthening our established sectors and reinforcing Hong Kong's status as an international financial, transportation, and trading center, we will strive to fully develop a range of emerging industries under the National 14th Five-Year Plan. Emphasis will be put on development of Hong Kong into an international innovation and technology (INT) hub, leveraging and combining the respective strengths of Hong Kong and the mainland, and facilitating the commercialization of our basic research results as driven by the industry chains, talent, and market forces in the mainland, the Guangdong, Hong Kong, Macau, Greater Bay Area in particular. In so doing, we'll foster robust growth in INT and various areas and rise to the challenges of global competition. The newly opened Hong Kong Palace Museum, which showcases a rich trove of national treasures plus Chinese history and culture, is set to attract visitors from all over the world to come to Hong Kong and is conducive to the spread of the fine Chinese culture. This, coupled with the M+ Museum of Modern and Contemporary Visual Culture and a series of cultural and arts exhibitions and performances, will work well together in developing Hong Kong into an East-Meets-West center for international cultural exchange, thereby enhancing the international positioning of Hong Kong. The Belt and Road Initiative and the Guangdong, Hong Kong, Macau, Greater Bay Area development also bring us unlimited opportunities and room for development. Development is the gold key to resolving social problems and improving people's livelihood. Our governance will be people-based. We will tackle the problem of land and housing, set up working groups to enhance action and coordination, and expedite developments through improving efficiency and increasing quantity holistically. Diversified sources of land and housing supply will be explored. We'll also adopt a scientific and precise management approach to bring under control the COVID epidemic situation, strengthen the resilience of our healthcare system, and enhance protection of the elderly and young children. Young people are the future of society. We'll formulate a comprehensive youth policy and development blueprint, broaden the scope for upward mobility of our youngsters, and encourage them to embrace the opportunities of the Greater Bay Area and make their dreams come true. We will enhance our education system and nurture a new generation of youth with an affection for our country, a global perspective, and a perspective of the overall situation as well. Development aside, the government will stay vigilant and strive to keep crisis at bay. We will lay the foundation for stability and ensure that adequate preventive and protective measures are in place to counter threats against national security, financial security, food and health security, supplies security, etc. The government will send officials and delegations to visit overseas countries and regions. We shall make good use of our discourse power to tell the Hong Kong story well and tell them the achievements and real truth about the success of Hong Kong. My campaign slogan is starting a new chapter for Hong Kong together. Together is the key word. The word together reflects the great importance I attach to teamwork. It carries a dual meaning. First, my team and I will stay united, share common goals, and work with concerted efforts to achieve the synergy of 1 + 1 is greater than 2. Second, the government will work together with the community in unity and give full play to our strengths in charting the future of Hong Kong. With the concerted efforts of the government, the community, and the individuals will be working together with one heart and will become even stronger to overcome all difficulties ahead. Fellow citizens, we are now all set at a new starting line. We're in no way complacent about our past achievements and will strive to overcome challenges and problems ahead. Let's join hands and stay united in passing on the Hong Kong legacy of courage and strong will to overcome challenges. Together, we will start a new chapter for building a better Hong Kong, contribute to the long-term stability and prosperity of Hong Kong, and contribute to China's dream of national rejuvenation. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Li. I now invite His Excellency Xi Jinping, President of the People's Republic of China, to deliver his address. Fellow compatriots, dear friends, today we gather here on this solemn occasion to celebrate the 25th anniversary of Hong Kong's return to the motherland and hold the inaugural ceremony of the 6th term government of the Hong Kong Special Administrative Region, SAR. At the outset, I wish to extend cordial greetings to all Hong Kong residents and my warm congratulations to Mr. Lee Ka-chiu, the newly inaugurated 6th term Chief Executive of the Hong Kong SAR, and to principal officials of the 6th term Hong Kong SAR government and members of the Executive Council.
I also express heartfelt appreciation to all fellow Chinese, both at home and overseas, and foreign friends for their support for the cause of one country, two systems, and Hong Kong's prosperity and stability. The history of over 5,000 years civilization of the Chinese nation keeps records of our forefathers tilling the land here in southern China. China's modern history following the Opium War records not just the humiliation of the forced cession of Hong Kong, but also the heroic struggle made by the sons and daughters of the Chinese nation for national salvation. The centenary history of the Communist Party of China rallying and leading the people in an extraordinary endeavor carries chapters of the unique and significant contribution of our compatriots in Hong Kong. Throughout history, Hong Kong compatriots have always stood together with the motherland, rain or shine. And the bond that links us is truly inseparable. Hong Kong's return to the motherland opened a new epoch in the history of Hong Kong. Over the past 25 years, with the full support of the motherland and common efforts of the government of the Hong Kong SAR and people of all sectors, the practice of one country, two systems has achieved success in Hong Kong, recognized by all. Since its return to the motherland, Hong Kong has been a pioneer, riding the wave of our country's great cause of reform and opening up. It has leveraged its role as an important window and bridge, connecting the Chinese mainland with the world, and has thus made an irreplaceable contribution to the miracle of long-term, steady and fast economic development of the motherland. Hong Kong has become an integral part of the country's overall development and has actively aligned with national development strategies. It has continued to maintain its strength of being highly free and open and compatible with international rules. Indeed, Hong Kong has played an important role in advancing the new paradigm of China's opening up on a larger scale, across more areas, and in greater depth. Exchanges and cooperation between Hong Kong and the mainland have expanded across the board, and the mechanisms for such exchanges and cooperation have been steadily improved. The stage for Hong Kong compatriots to start business and achieve success has become increasingly broader. Since its return to the motherland, Hong Kong has overcome various difficulties and challenges and forged ahead with steady steps. Be it the global financial crisis, COVID-19, or some intense social upheaval, nothing has stopped Hong Kong's advance. Over the past 25 years, Hong Kong has enjoyed robust economic growth. It's maintained its status as an international financial, shipping and trading center, and its innovation and technology industry has developed rapidly. its economy is one of the freest and most open in the world, and it boasts a world-class business environment. Hong Kong's pre-existing laws, including the common law, have been preserved and developed. Its social programs are flourishing, and its society has remained stable as a whole. As an international metropolis, Hong Kong enjoys vitality that is the admiration of the world. Since Hong Kong's return to the motherland, Hong Kong compatriots have become masters of their own destiny. The realization of Hong Kong people administering Hong Kong and a high degree of autonomy has marked the beginning of true democracy in Hong Kong. Over the past 25 years, the constitutional order of the SAR, which is based on China's constitution and the basic law of the SAR, has functioned smoothly. The overall jurisdiction of the central authorities have been enforced, and the SAR's high degree of autonomy has been exercised in the right way. The Hong Kong National Security Law has been adopted, providing the institutions and norms for upholding national security in the Hong Kong SAR. Hong Kong's electoral system has been amended and improved, ensuring the implementation of the principle of Patriots administering Hong Kong. The Hong Kong SAR's democratic system is in keeping with the policy of one country, two systems, and Hong Kong's constitutional status. It has served to ensure the democratic rights of Hong Kong residents and to maintain Hong Kong's prosperity and stability. And it holds bright prospects for the future. Fellow compatriots, dear friends, the policy of one country, two systems is a great initiative that has no precedent to follow. The underlying goal of the policy of one country, two systems is to uphold China's sovereignty, security, and development interests, and to maintain long-term prosperity and stability in Hong Kong and Macau. Everything the central government has done is for the benefit of our country, of Hong Kong and Macau, and of our fellow compatriots in Hong Kong and Macau. At the meeting celebrating the 20th anniversary of Hong Kong's return to the motherland, I stressed the 2 points that the central authorities would stick to regarding implementation of the policy of one country, two systems. First, the policy should be implemented unswervingly without deviating or wavering. Second, the policy should be applied fully and faithfully without being bent or distorted. Today, I wish to highlight once more that the policy of one country, two systems, having been tested and proved time and again, meets the fundamental interests of the country and the Chinese nation, and those of Hong Kong and Macau. It enjoys the full support of the more than 1.4 billion people of the motherland. It has the unanimous endorsement of Hong Kong and Macau residents, and it is widely recognized by the international community. There is no reason to change such a good system, and it must be adhered to over the long run. Fellow compatriots, dear friends, a review of the past points the way to the future. The rich practice of the policy of one country, two systems in Hong Kong has left us much valuable experience and food for thought. 25 years of practice tells us that only with a deep and accurate understanding of the rules governing the policy's implementation can we ensure that the course of one country, two systems keeps advancing steadily in the right direction. First, we must implement the policy of one country, two systems in both letter and spirit. The policy of one country, two systems is an integral whole. Upholding our country's sovereignty, security, and development interests is the paramount principle in the policy of one country, two systems. On the basis of this prerequisite, Hong Kong and Macau maintain their previous capitalist system over the long run and enjoy a high degree of autonomy. The socialist system is the fundamental system of the People's Republic of China, and the leadership of the Communist Party of China is the defining feature of socialism with Chinese characteristics. All residents in the SARs shall conscientiously respect and uphold the fundamental system of our country. Full and faithful implementation of the policy of one country, two systems will create immense development opportunities for Hong Kong and Macau. The more firmly the principle of one country is adhered to, the greater advantage the two systems will demonstrate in practice. Second, we must ensure the integration of overall jurisdiction of the central authorities and a high degree of autonomy in the SAR. With its return to the motherland, Hong Kong has been reincorporated into our country's governance system, and the constitutional order of the SAR has been established under the fundamental guidance of the policy of one country, two systems. The central government's overall jurisdiction over the SAR provides the source of the SAR's high degree of autonomy. At the same time, the central authorities fully respect and firmly hold a high degree of autonomy enjoyed by the SAR as enshrined in law. Enforcing the central authorities' overall jurisdiction and upholding the SAR's high degree of autonomy are integral aspects of the same policy. And only by ensuring both can we run the SAR truly well. The SAR adheres to the executive-led system. The executive, legislative, and judicial authorities perform their functions in accordance with the basic law and other relevant laws. The executive and the legislature operate through checks and balances and in coordination, and the judiciary exercises judicial power independently in accordance with the law. Third, we must implement the principle of patriots administering Hong Kong. Keeping political power in the hands of patriots is a political rule commonly practiced in the world. No people in any country or region in the world will ever allow political power to fall into the hands of forces or individuals who do not love or would even sell out or betray their own country. To keep the power to administer the Hong Kong SAR firmly in the hands of patriots is essential for safeguarding the long-term governance and security of Hong Kong. At no time should this principle be allowed to be compromised. Protecting the power to administer is protecting Hong Kong's prosperity and stability, as well as the interests of the over 7 million Hong Kong residents. Fourth, we must maintain Hong Kong's unique status and strengths. The central authorities have always handled Hong Kong affairs from a strategic and overarching perspective, with the starting point and ultimate goal always to uphold the fundamental and long-term interests of both our country and Hong Kong. Hong Kong's fundamental interests are consistent with the fundamental interests of the country. The heart of the central government and the heart of our Hong Kong compatriots always beat together. Enjoying the backing of the motherland while staying connected with the world is a notable strength unique to Hong Kong, a strength cherished by both Hong Kong residents and the central authorities. The central government fully supports Hong Kong in maintaining its unique status and strengths on a long-term basis, in consolidating its role as an international financial, shipping, and trading center, in maintaining its free, open, and sound business environment, in retaining its common law system, and in expanding smooth and convenient linkages with the rest of the world. The central authorities trust that in the historical course of building a modern socialist country in all respects and achieving the great rejuvenation of the Chinese nation, Hong Kong will have an even greater contribution to make. Fellow compatriots, dear friends, in the Chinese people and the Chinese nation's great advance from standing up to becoming prosperous and growing in strength, our Hong Kong compatriots have never been absent. Now, Hong Kong is at a new stage of moving from chaos to governance, and then from governance to greater prosperity. The next 5 years will be crucial for Hong Kong to break new ground and launch a new takeoff. Hong Kong faces both opportunities and challenges, and there are more opportunities than challenges. Both the central government and people across all social sectors in Hong Kong have high hopes for the new government of the SAR. And people of all ethnic groups in China wish the best for Hong Kong. Here, I want to express 4 hopes for Hong Kong. First, strive to improve governance. Enhancing the system and capacity for governance and boosting its efficacy is of pressing importance for the development of the Hong Kong SAR. As administrators of Hong Kong, the Chief Executive and the SAR government bear the primary responsibility for administering Hong Kong. You should all faithfully fulfill the oath of office, take solid steps to implement the policy of one country, 2 systems, uphold the authority of the basic law, and dedicate yourselves to the Hong Kong SAR. Officials should be selected on the basis of both integrity and competence. Outstanding individuals who are firm in their love for both the country and Hong Kong, professionally competent and dedicated to serving the public should be extensively drawn into government service. The sense of national identity and a global vision should be highlighted. Plans for Hong Kong's development should be made with the overall and long-term requirements in mind. The philosophy of administration should be transformed and the relationship between the government and the market better balanced. This is to better promote both a well-functioning government and an efficient market. Government administration and conduct should be improved so that officials will demonstrate a new level of commitment and satisfactory performance and take on a new look of good governance. Second, keep strengthening the momentum of development. Hong Kong enjoys a unique position, favorable conditions, and broad space for development. The central authorities fully support Hong Kong in seizing the historic opportunities presented by our country's development and in aligning with national strategies such as the 4th Five-Year Plan, the development of the Guangdong-Hong Kong-Macau Greater Bay Area, and the high-quality development of Belt and Road Corporation. The central authorities fully support Hong Kong in developing more extensive and closer exchanges and cooperation with the world and in attracting more people who aspire to start up businesses and fulfill their dreams in Hong Kong. The central authorities also fully support Hong Kong in advancing reforms in an active and prudent manner, breaking the impediments of vested interests, and fully unleashing the enormous creativity and development vitality of Hong Kong society. Third, take solid steps to address difficulties in people's lives. As the Chinese saying goes, those who get the benefits of the world take on responsibility for all. and those who enjoy the happiness of the world share concerns for all. As I have said, meeting the people's aspirations for a better life is the goal of all our work. At present, what the people of Hong Kong desire the most are a better life, a bigger apartment, more business startup opportunities, better education for kids, and better elderly care. What the people call for, we must strive to deliver. The new government of the SAR should deliver concrete outcomes and live up to people's expectations. Give top priority to meeting the aspirations of the whole community, especially ordinary people, and act with greater resolve and take more effective steps to address existing problems so that more fruits of development will reach all people in Hong Kong in a more equitable way. Each and every one of them will have greater confidence that as long as they work hard, they are fully capable of making a difference for themselves and their families. Fourth, jointly uphold harmony and stability. Hong Kong is the common home for all its people, and a harmonious family will always prosper. Having gone through ups and downs, people have learned the hard way that Hong Kong must not be destabilized and cannot afford to see chaos. There is extensive consensus that no time should be lost in Hong Kong's development and that all interference should be removed so that Hong Kong can stay focused on development. Everyone living in Hong Kong, regardless of their profession or belief, is a positive force for the development of Hong Kong and can contribute their due share to Hong Kong's development as long as they genuinely support the policy of one country, two systems, love Hong Kong, and abide by the basic law and the laws of the SAR. I hope all Hong Kong compatriots will vigorously promote the mainstream values that are centered on love of our country and love of Hong Kong, and consistent with the policy of one country, two systems, carry forward the tradition of inclusiveness, solidarity, common ground without uniformity, perseverance, and a can-do spirit, and work together to create a better life. In particular, we should care about young people. When young people thrive, Hong Kong thrives. When young people grow, Hong Kong grows. When there is a future for young people, there is a future for Hong Kong. We should help the young gain a keen appreciation of the underlying trend in both our country and the world, and heighten their sense of national pride and ownership. We should help young people overcome difficulties in education, employment, business startup, and home buying, and create more opportunities for them to grow and shine. It is our earnest hope that all young people in Hong Kong will join efforts to build a better Hong Kong and write a splendid chapter in their life with a youthful vigor. Fellow compatriots, dear friends. A line from a Chinese poem reads, "How I wish I could soar the sky on the borrowed wings of a yellow crane." The great rejuvenation of the Chinese nation has become an irreversible historical process. Ensuring the continued success of the practice of one country, two systems in Hong Kong is an integral part of this historical process. We are convinced that on the new journey of realizing our country's second centenary goal, Hong Kong, with the strong support of the great motherland and the solid implementation of the policy of one country, two systems, will surely achieve even greater accomplishments and share, together with fellow compatriots of the motherland, the glory of great rejuvenation of the Chinese nation. Thank you.
Thank you, President Xi. That concludes the celebrations of the 25th anniversary of Hong Kong's return to the motherland and inauguration of the 6th-term government of the Hong Kong Special Administrative Region. Please rise as President Xi Jinping leaves the hall. Chief Executive Mr. John Lee will accompany the President.
Those were the celebration marking the 25th anniversary of Hong Kong's return to China and inauguration of the 6th Chief Executive of Hong Kong and the 6th term regional government of Hong Kong. For more on that, let's cross live to our reporter Dai Kai in Hong Kong. Kai, you've been following those very closely. Remind us the highlights.
Yes, Bandung, new Chief Executive John Lee as sworn in by Chinese President Xi Jinping. And the Chinese president had also sworn in principal officials, and that includes 3 top secretaries, their deputies, and 15 bureau ministers. The Chinese president said that the enactment of national security law for Hong Kong and the revising and improving of the city's electoral system ensures the implementation of Patriots governing Hong Kong. And also the democratic system of the Hong Kong Special Administrative Region conforms to the one country, two systems policy and the constitutional status of Hong Kong. And it is conducive to safeguarding the democratic rights of Hong Kong residents, as well as maintaining Hong Kong's prosperity and stability. And it shows a bright future. And President Xi said the next 5 years will be a critical period for Hong Kong to break new ground and achieve new leap forward. He believes the opportunities and challenges coexist. And John Lee said in his speech that he takes up the new position with a humble attitude. He thanks people for their trust and promises to lead Hong Kong into becoming an inclusive city with plenty of opportunities and vitality. John Lee acknowledged in his speech the rule of law as a Hong Kong value, and he also says the national security law as well as the improvements of the electoral system have brought the city from chaos to prosperity. Back to you, Pandong.
Thank you very much. Our reporter Dai Kai in Hong Kong. Now, for more insight, let's talk to our studio guest, Professor Gao. Let me start with you. In his keynote speech, President Xi Jinping proposed 4 approaches for the city's future development. Among them, he mentioned the importance of raise the level of governance in Hong Kong, and also he hoped the city could explore new impetus for its future development. What's your reading into these 2 approaches?
I think President Xi Jinping's important speech is very timely and also very relevant to the tasks facing the Hong Kong new administration. As I mentioned just now, traditionally the Hong Kong government was a laissez-faire government. It did not involve too much directly in the economic activities of the whole society. It left most of the job to the business community. However, in terms of how to deal with the housing problem in Hong Kong, which I think President Xi Jinping also referred to, this would require the collective efforts of the government on the one hand, the communities on the other hand, and the business leaders on the other hand. And also it would need high level of cooperation between Hong Kong SAR on the one hand and China's the rest of China, and also international participation to the extent possible. So this will require the Hong Kong civil service to really readapt themselves to the changing circumstances and the challenges facing Hong Kong, because the challenges today are very different from the challenges in the 1990s, for example, or even 10 years ago or 20 years ago.
More different challenges or difficult challenges ahead.
Absolutely. So they need to have a new methodology and new thinking.
Right. That's what implies in increasing the governance ability by President Xi. In addition to that, I think all his other hopes can be summarized into a very simple sentence: to build Hong Kong into a better place. And John Lee also promised in his speech that all the officials are set, or the new government is set at the starting line. They're ready, but we're not talking about the 100-meter dash. We're talking about 5 years of governance, 5 years of a track. That's a very long time. So what do you think should be the new government's priorities?
Well, in the brief speech yesterday by President Xi, he said, "My heart is with you." Now, there's a further amplification of what does that mean. He said, what is a good governance? Good governance is that when there is a need, and then there is a response from the state.
And the responsibility to meet all the needs.
Exactly. So that's actually that really defines the task of Hong Kong SAR and also the support of the mainland government because, all the objective is to cater to those people. They need to be morally reliable. They need to be professionally capable, and that is there to support the satisfaction of the need of these people with larger house, with better education of the children, with better care of the elderly, and also with more innovation drive.
And let's also remember unity. Yes. Unity is also a key element.
Exactly.
Thank you very much, Professor Liu and Professor Gao there. And that's it for this special coverage on the 25th anniversary of Hong Kong's return to China and the inauguration of Hong Kong SAR's sixth-term government.
Right, and as President Xi Jinping said in his speech, people across the country wish the best for Hong Kong.
Indeed.
And we mean 1.4 billion people here.
Exactly. We leave you with images of highlights from this morning's ceremonies in Hong Kong. I'm Han Dong in Beijing.
And I'm Li Dongning. Thanks for watching.
Stay tuned.
...再次来到香港，感到十分高兴。
本人就任中华人民共和国香港特别行政区行政长官。我谨此宣誓，中华人民共和国香港特别行政区本法，效忠中华人民共和国香港特别行政区，拥护中华人民共和国，为香港长期繁荣稳定做出贡献。
同胞们、朋友们，庆祝香港回归祖国25